Platinum Weird. Platinum Weird's the most famous band that no one's ever heard of, really, I suppose, if that makes any kind of sense.
I remember Platinum Weird. I think it used to play in the house when I was growing up.
I found a vintage t-shirt that said Platinum Weird on it, which was really funny because I was going to see Cara, ironically, and I wore it into her and it kind of freaked her out a little bit.
I don't really remember the original Platinum Weird.
Platinum Weird. Yeah, I remember them.
Have you heard of Platinum Weird?
What's Platinum Weird?
In 1973, Britain was a land of industrial strife, racial unrest, social and political upheaval. There were no cell phones, pagers, PlayStations, iPods, or Blackberries. There was rampant consumerism, blue nun wine, flared trousers, and the Bay City Rollers. None of this mattered to Dave Stewart, poet, dreamer, and occasional explorer of uncharted hallucinogenic domains. Frustrated at the time by his embryonic music career, he was considering other options: philosopher, Trappist monk, bank robber. He lived in a dingy flat and rented a stall in Camden Lock Market between a head shop and a tarot card reader, from which he sold classic vinyl records, great music in a sea of shit, many of which he couldn't bring himself to sell. He spent his days in the market and his nights in his room writing songs, living on a diet of Mars bars, chips and frozen fish fingers, dreaming, no doubt, of room service in the Hyatt Hotel Los Angeles, from where he would be whisked to the Greek Theater in a limousine with champagne and a bevy of obliging female companions. Sometimes Dave made forays to Amsterdam, where he would busk on the streets for the raggle-taggle army of hippies, stoners, Vietnam deserters, and radicals who sought liberation in casual sex and cheap drugs. It was on such a trip, no pun intended, that he first met an American girl called Erin Grace.
Well, the first time I met Erin, I thought immediately she's got to be with someone. And I hate him, whoever he is. Because she was so beautiful, and she had on a vintage dress. She had a bag with like poetry books and travel books in it, and totally bohemian. And she had one of those stares, like a 100-yard stare, where you weren't quite sure if you were on her radar or not.
Dave, in what he believed was a completely futile gesture, gave her his phone number in London, never expecting to see this vision again. A month later, Erin showed up in Camden Lock, her ethereal beauty lighting up the rain-soaked market. As Dave himself remarked in disbelief.
Of all the stalls in all the world, she turns up at my one and asks if I've got a copy of Astral Weeks by Van Morrison.
A month later, Dave and Erin were inseparable. Not lovers, but soulmates.
Oh, I thought she was quite lovely. I mean, beautiful girl, really. A little bit out there. I mean, not quite my taste, I suppose, but physically, yes.
Dave told Erin everything about his childhood in the bleak industrial northeast of England, his aspirations and his search for some kind of personal and musical identity. From Erin, he learned snatches, an Ivy League education, trips to Morocco and Sri Lanka, a doomed love affair, but she remained elusive and tantalizing. As Mick Jagger would say years later,
I mean, there had to be a kind of essential Erin that none of us had ever found.
Oh, she liked him. I mean, what's not to like? You know, it's Mick Jagger.
Yeah, I think Mick fancied her.
She didn't come across as a sort of regular kind of rock chick. I mean, I think she'd spent some time in an ashram in Kabul or something like that.
in the Christmas of 1973, Dave took Erin to his hometown and introduced her to family and friends. They took trips into the Northumbrian countryside. Erin loved the bleak winter solitude, and when they stayed on Holy Island, they became lovers.
Well, the sex thing, you know, we just did it once. It was really to get it out of the way, you know. We just didn't want it to intrude on what we were really focused on, which was writing songs, and there was such brilliant stuff, crazy stuff, and we loved doing it.
Well, I could see it from an artistic point of view. I mean, they were totally matched as far as that went, but I mean, physically, I mean, Dave's a wonderful guy, but I mean, it just didn't sort of match up. I couldn't believe it. I mean, here he was with this beautiful bird.
I saw Platinum Weird in London in the early 70s, and that girl, Erin Grace, and I liked her style. I thought that it was very interesting and innovative, and I probably took a little of her style for myself.
Because I produced Stevie Nicks, you know, and when I saw the tapes of Platinum Weird, and I saw Stevie, I said, oh wow, this is where some of her influences are from, which is really interesting. I mean, some of the stuff she just blatantly took.
They had a name, they had songs, they had a vision, and in their own young minds, it was only a matter of time before the world heard them and flipped.